150 days ago, none of this was meant to happen. I wasn't supposed to walk across countries, I wasn't supposed to fall in love, and I definitely wasn't supposed to adopt a dog. But somehow, this is where I ended up. This journey has taken everything from me and given me even more back. When I look back at where this all began, I barely recognised the girl who took her first steps in Turkey. Not because I wasn't strong, I've always been strong, but because I had no idea how much this walk would demand of me. The heat, the exhaustion, the endless road under my feet, the moments where I laughed harder than I have in years, and the moments where I broke. Quietly, privately, in the moments that you never see. I didn't come out here looking for meaning. I came out here for adventure, for challenge, because I've always been the girl who goes after the things that scare her. But even with all of that, I had no idea how deeply this walk would get under my skin. Somewhere between the countries and the kilometres, something shifted. This walk became more than a challenge. It became part of me. Before we look back at everything that's happened, I wanted to show you where I am right now. I'm back in England for a short reset, to breathe, to see my family, and to pause again before the next stretch of this journey. Up until now, we've crossed 3 different countries, across the Caspian Sea on a cargo ship, and made it to Kazakhstan, where we're standing on the edge of the desert, ready for what comes next. This isn't the end of the journey. It's just a moment to ground ourselves before it all changes again, because very soon we're going to be headed back out to Kazakhstan to begin the most remote part of the entire trip, walking from Turkey to Vietnam and the UK to Vietnam. But before we step into that, this is the story of how we got here. When I look back at the last 250 days, it's almost impossible to believe how far we've walked. We started in Turkey, those first steps full of excitement, nerves, and the feeling of stepping into something completely unknown. From the huge city of Istanbul, to the mountains, and to the Black Sea coast, through tiny villages and long empty roads, Turkey was where this journey began to shape me. Then we crossed into Georgia, a country that tested us with forests, relentless heat exhaustion, and a parasite that hit us right when we were already struggling, but also gave us kindness, generosity, and moments that helped us when we needed it the most. And somewhere along those Georgian roads, our little walking family changed forever. Belle joined us. Completely unexpected, but somehow exactly when she was meant to. And then we reached Azerbaijan, a country we crossed under time pressure, racing the clock of a tight visa. It was one endless motorway, straight through heat and silence, with nothing but trucks, dust, and the horizon. And in the middle of that, the sprained ankle, the 5 rabies shots, and the feeling of pushing through when my body was begging me to stop. And then the Caspian Sea, the ferry crossing, the waiting, the uncertainty, the feeling of stepping onto a ship with no timetable, no plan, just trust. That crossing felt like a doorway, a real shift between chapters. And now, Kazakhstan, a new landscape, a new silence, and ahead of us, the desert. When I first agreed to come on this walk, I didn't sign up for an 11,000 kilometre journey across continents. The plan was simple: walk the length of Turkey with a friend, push myself, experience something new, and then go home. That was supposed to be it. A chapter, not a whole book. But as the days went on, the road started to feel different. It wasn't one big moment, no dramatic sunrise, no huge revelation, just a quiet feeling that I wasn't finished here. I'd travelled solo for years before this. I already knew adventure. I already knew strength. This wasn't about finding myself. This was about choosing to keep going, because something about this journey felt bigger than the plan. And then there was Luke. We were already friends before any of this, but spending every day together, side by side on the road, something real started to grow. So when Turkey ended and he asked, "Do you want to keep walking?" I said yes. Not because I planned any of this, but because it felt right to keep moving forwards. There were moments on this walk that looked nothing like an adventure. Moments where the heat was so strong I could feel it burning my skin. Moments where every step hurt, but stopping hurt even more. Each country pushed me in ways I didn't expect. In Turkey, I used to tense up every time stray dogs barked at me. I was convinced that they'd bite or attack, and now we've got one of our own. I remember the trucks flying past us on those narrow roads out of Istanbul, and the sound alone made my whole body flinch. Then came the middle of Turkey, bear territory. Our choice was a deadly tunnel or a forest the locals warned us not to enter. Turning back wasn't an option. As we walked deeper into the woods, the prints on the ground became fresher. I asked Luke, if we have to run, do we run forwards or back? And another night in Turkey, 2 wolves came into our camp while we slept. We evacuated at 2 a.m. and ended up in a fenced school playground because it was the only place that felt safe enough to close our eyes. Georgia pushed me harder than I expected. One night on the forest, the worst night of the entire trip, we didn't have the right setup. Just a bug net that didn't close properly and a forest floor full of mosquitoes waiting for us. I got bitten hundreds of times. I barely slept. Every part of my skin was itching. That night, I wasn't thinking about Vietnam or the adventure. I was lying there, covered in hundreds of bites, thinking, I don't want to be here, I'm done. And that's the truth. Not every day is inspiring. Some days you just want to go home. Then Azerbaijan. That's where everything unravelled a bit. The rabies vaccines, the sprained ankle, the crying in the tent when the pain was too much. And I was scared that I wouldn't recover in time. I remember feeling small for the first time on this journey. Not weak, just worn down. But the thing about walking is, you can't hide from yourself. Every emotion comes with you, every fear, every doubt, and some days I honestly wondered how I could keep going. But even on the worst days, there was always one tiny moment that kept me moving. An interaction with a local, a stray dog, or even just one step that felt a little lighter. I shared parts of these days online, but never the whole picture. I showed the strength, not the moments where I was questioning everything. The funny thing about a walk like this is the hardest moments feel huge, but the best moments, they're always the small ones. Like the times me and Luke are so tired we can barely speak, but somehow, even on the worst days, we find a way to lift each other back up. Or when we stumble into a restaurant after a brutal day, and instead of turning us away, they show us a little cabin out the back and say that we can stay there for the night. Those moments feel like a miracle. And hotels, oh my god, a hotel on this walk feels like winning the lottery. A bed, a shower, 4 walls. You appreciate the simplest things so much more out here, like farmers sharing their pomegranate or offering some of their chai, locals helping us when we get lost or giving us food or water, and the evenings by the fire, making dinner on our little stove, Belle sleeping next to us and looking at the map to see how far we've come that day, or even just finding a place to fill up our water. Those quiet moments are when it all feels worth it. And then there's the wild camps that just feel really special. The ones where the ground is perfectly flat so we can actually sleep comfortably. The breeze is gentle and the stars are visible in the night sky. Or warmer nights where we aren't freezing in the tent and everything just feels right. When we come across a market and sit on a wall eating a chocolate croissant, or Luke surprises me with a chocolate bar. Or we bump into a farmer and share a quiet moment under a tree in the shade, not speaking each other's language but understanding each other. Those are the moments that I carry with me. And the feeling of freedom on the road, the excitement of the adventure and the unknown, laughing with Luke and making up random games to pass the time, or rinsing in a river and feeling completely free, that's what makes it all worthwhile. Even the small things like getting fresh laundry or sharing a quiet sunset remind me why I keep walking. These are the moments that I never want to forget, the little things that somehow end up meaning everything. Belle wasn't part of the plan, not even close. She started following us on the road in Georgia. She was joyful, energetic, and full of life. But then we watched as she got hit by a police car and they drove off. We used the local shopkeeper's phone to call every vet we could. 3 different numbers, no one could help. And then suddenly the fire brigade arrived and more police, promising they would take her somewhere safe. We wanted to believe them. We really did. but something didn't feel right. So later that night, we went back, and she was still there, exactly where we left her, head injured, confused, and somehow still wagging her tail and smiling when we found her. That moment broke my heart, and at the same time, it decided everything. We weren't leaving her behind. From that day on, Belle became part of this walk, part of the pack. It wasn't perfect. We waited weeks for vets. She still has separation anxiety, and we still can't leave her for more than a moment. We had to slow down and change plans. But she brought this energetic bundle of joy in the small everyday things. Belle learned to trust. She grew from a scared little dog into this confident, happy little pup. The way that she wakes us up in the morning to let us know she needs the toilet, or that she wants to go for a walk because she's so excited. The way her face lights up when I rattle her food because she knows that she's going to get fed. It's just so sweet. Or the way she comes into the bed in the morning and snuggles up with me and Luke is so adorable, and it really makes us feel like we're a little family now. Belle, we love you. You're a little rascal at times, but we love you, and we're glad that you came home to us. One of the things people ask us all the time is how this works, doing something like this together. Because walking thousands of kilometres isn't just about endurance, it's about who you're walking beside. Luke and I are very different people. I feel everything, and I notice the small things. He's logical, always looking ahead, 10 steps, sometimes 10 days into the future, and somehow that balance works. There are moments out here where everything feels like too much. Your legs hurt, your head is loud, the road feels endless, and then he'll say something stupid, or I'll make him laugh, and suddenly the weight lifts just enough to keep going. We work really well as a team, almost without thinking about it. When we stop to camp, we both just fall into our roles. I start making the tent feel like home. Luke goes straight off to collect wood and get a fire going. No discussion, no planning, it just happens. And it works. It's the small moments that mean the most, like when he goes into a shop and comes back with my favourite chocolate bar, not because I asked, but because he knows that I need a little pick-me-up that day. Sometimes he gives me tough love, and I'm not used to that, and to be honest with you, I don't always like it. I'm emotional, and I feel things deeply. He looks at situations logically, strips them back, and keeps us moving forward. And even though we're opposites, it actually helps. When we're walking, Luke's eyes are always on the horizon, planning the road ahead. Mine are closer to the ground, watching for hazards, snakes, anything that might trip us up. Different perspectives, same direction. There are days where one of us is completely empty, physically, mentally, emotionally, and the other one steps in without a word. We don't always agree. We get tired, we get snappy, and sometimes we walk in silence for hours. But the walk has this way of stripping everything back. There's nowhere to hide out here. You learn how to communicate without words. You learn when to push and when to soften. Out here, what matters is how you get through the hard days, how we support each other in the quiet moments, how we lift each other when one of us starts to dip. And on a journey like this, that matters more than anything else. Everything we've walked so far, the mountains, the coastlines, the borders, the ferries, the villages, it all feels like preparation, because what comes next isn't just another country on the map. It's a 3,300 kilometre stretch of winter desert cutting through Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, and into Pakistan. Not heat, cold. Open, empty lands that offers very little back. Most people picture deserts as sun and sand and endless heat, but in winter, they become something else entirely. The wind doesn't just pass over you, it cuts through every layer. The ground hardens and freezes. Water turns into ice overnight, and the silence stretches so wide that it feels physical, like the world has been turned down to its lowest volume. We'll be walking through places where days can pass without seeing another person, where towns sit hundreds of kilometres apart, where food and water aren't a given and the horizon barely changes, just a road pulling you forwards into the same view again and again. Not a section you rush through, it's something you endure. This is the longest, most remote part of the entire Turkey to Vietnam journey. Not a chapter, an era. Weeks of repetition, long distances, isolation, and the kind of mental challenge that doesn't show itself straight away. To take this on, we've had to rethink everything. We built a custom cart to carry more water and food. We've upgraded our sleeping systems, added layers, reinforced against the wind. But more than the gear, it's the mindset that matters the most. Being ready for long days where nothing changes and nights where the cold makes it almost unbearable to sleep. And Belle is with us, her paws on the road, her tail wagging through the cold. Walking with Belle changes everything. How far we go, how we plan, how careful we are with food and shelter and water. But she also brings something vital into places like this. Life, warmth, a reminder that even in the emptiest landscapes, there's still connection. And plus, Belle's a husky. She's built for places like this, and she's gonna love it. This stretch is bigger than anything we've faced so far. Kazakhstan's open plains and freezing winds, Uzbekistan's straight, unforgiving roads. We thought Azerbaijan was bad. Afghanistan, complex, intense, full of history and humanity. A place we'll move through with respect, awareness, and care. The truth is, we don't know exactly what these 3,300 kilometres will look like day to day. We don't know how the cold will feel at its worst, how the cart will handle every surface, or how our minds will respond to that much quiet. But we do know this: we're more prepared than we've ever been. The reset gave us the space to breathe. Our bodies feel stronger, our heads feel clearer, and the three of us, me, Luke and Belle, are stepping into this stretch as a unit, a pack. So what's next isn't a question anymore. It's a winter desert. 4 countries, 3,300 kilometres, cold mornings, even colder nights, and days that will demand everything we have. We'll walk it the only way you ever can, step by step, until the desert finally gives way and the rest of Asia begins. To the version of me on day 1 who was about to step into this crazy adventure and wasn't really sure what she was getting herself into. You had no idea how much this journey was going to demand of you, not physically but emotionally and mentally. You thought that strength looked like pushing on through everything, but on this walk you'll learn that it's not always about that. It's about listening, sometimes pausing, and changing as the journey evolves. There's going to be days where you feel completely overwhelmed, where you're wondering why you even started this journey, and days where you're going to be doubting yourself. It's going to be days where you might feel a bit lonely on the road or in places full of people, and you're going to feel completely exposed in a way that you've never felt before. But here's what you don't know yet. You don't need to have everything completely figured out to keep on going. You're not going to have all the answers. You'll learn that strength isn't always being fearless. It's just about continuing to move forwards, even when you don't feel like it. Courage is a choice, and you're choosing that. I'm proud of you. You're going to learn to trust yourself and trust your gut. You're always willing to listen and learn, and that's what it takes to start a trip like this and to finish it. You are more capable than you think, not because you never struggle, because I know you do, but because you always show up anyway. It doesn't matter what, you always show up for yourself. So if it all feels like a bit too much, then just take the next step and you'll be fine. Thank you for walking these 250 days with me. Here's to the next chapter.